prisons are overcrowded at the moment. And Keir Starmer, who's just come into government, has said that he wishes to get rid of some of the prisoners. Prisons are broken and early release must continue. Now, as we move on into this new world, we are going to have more and more prisoners. There is going to be more and more mayhem. As the world divides, it is dividing into segregations of race, of gender, of politics. Never has there been a time before where, conservatives hate the liberals and the liberals hate the conservatives. Never has there really been a time before where people hate immigrants so much as what's happening now, because of the problems and the pressure on the system. And the locals in countries, the people that were born there, are being told or believe or feel, for whatever reason, that their culture is being eroded. We are also having more problems with nature. Nature has a link to us. We and nature are one. As the nature gets ill and crazy, as the sun starts to have flares, as there's more pollution in the air, as there's more geoengineering, as people play with the clouds, as people play with earthquakes, as people use science to unsettle and disharmonize the world, is going to have an effect psychologically on people, and people, I think, are going to go crazy. And I think that we're going to have more and more and more people that should be going to prison, but they won't be going to prison because the prisons will be overcrowded. And there's going to be a general understanding that you can't just send everyone to prison, because there are so many people which are going to prison. There are so many people which are abusing. There are so many people that are stealing. There's so many people which are creating riots. There are so many people. Crime is up. It's up. It's up. It's up. And people are going to try and find an understanding of what's going on. How is it happening? And the solution is definitely not going to be in the future by sending people to prison. Already people want to defund the police. People don't have respect for the system. People blame economy. People blame other reasons for the crime rates going up. And so what they're going to do is they are going to introduce a different way of punishing people. And that different way of punishing people, using this approach, the Cognify device can ensure that implanted memories or visuals of crimes are integrated seamlessly into the brain's neural network, and thereby giving a prisoner a very real experience of the effects of their crimes, like the effect on a victim's mind and body. So what you do to the other person, you will have done to you. That's the karma from this new AI technology. While these rehabilitation meetings involving the feeding of AI-generated crime clips to a prisoner are intended to last only a few minutes in real time, they are meant to feel like years to a prisoner, an effect that is achieved by altering the way a prisoner perceives time. Further, these memories can also be altered to fit the requirements of each prisoner's rehabilitation program, depending on how evil their crime was. As prisoners undergo these intense rehabilitation programs, a central computer will record information that will help researchers understand the motivation behind their crimes and what in general motivates a person to commit crimes. I don't believe that this is for criminals. I believe that the guinea pigs are for criminals. You see, when Elon Musk took the brain implant and he wanted to put it into people, he couldn't just put it into anyone. He had to find someone that the public would accept. Who did he find? He found somebody that had a degenerative disorder, somebody that was paralyzed, somebody that was ill, somebody that needed it, somebody that needed his help. So all of a sudden, it's okay to give an implant to somebody to help them. But we're not giving implants to people that are already genius. We're not giving implants to people that don't need them. We're giving people implants that need them so that we can give them to people that don't need them, in order to create a new world, a new system, whatever it is that we're doing. And so in order to give people these false memories, or to give people these new therapies, or to change the way people are, you need to have a guinea pig. And so if the prisons are full and we can't afford them, and it costs £100,000 or $100,000 a year to keep somebody in prison, and the taxpayer's paying for it, why not reduce 20 years down to a couple of minutes or an hour, instead of paying 2 million or 20 million for a prisoner to go to prison? Why not pay £10 or $20 for them to go and have a computer experience and to give them what they would have had if they had gone to prison? However, I don't believe that this is what it's for. I believe that the humans are the experiment, because in the future, what I believe is that it's going to be there to change the way people think. So if you've got people that are anti-climate, there hasn't been a crime that's happened, but you could put them into a camp, and in that camp you then make them think in a different way, and you just put them into a machine and you get them to think in the way that the state wants you to think. Now that's for people that have broken the law, or people that need to have modified thoughts. These are things that the Chinese people do at the moment in their camps. They've got in Stalin's camps as well, they've got these things where you go through a new training process in order to think different. But I don't think that that's what it's for either. I think it's for children. I think that this is going to go into schools. I think that the way that they're going to train and teach children in the future is through hyper-specialized education. And the hyper-specialized education is going to be where you download things into a child. You find what the child wants, you ask what the child wants to do, and then you give the child that information so that they can do those things. You can download maths, you can download programming, you can download information, you can download all of these things into a child so the child can be intelligent, the child can do what it needs to do, or the child can be happy, because the sell is going to be, we don't need to be educated, because we can get computers to do it all for us, and if we put a chip in our head we can have it. So what's the point going to school? We don't need to work because we can get robots to work for us. We don't have work because all our jobs have been taken away. So what do humans do? Because if humans don't have anything to do and they become lazy or sloth or bored, they can cause revolutions, they can cause issues in society. So in order to stop those revolutions, in order to change the way that humans are, you can then go and download ideas into their brains, or maybe even states of mind. Now, I think there might be good things and bad things here. You might try to put in meditation or harmony or relaxing or strength of mind or something like that, something that a monk might do. I mean, if a monk spends 20 years meditating, could you do that 20 years in 5 minutes? Could we all suddenly become supernatural people? Could we all become enlightened? How is this technology going to move forwards? But the problem with technology, especially when it's mandated by the government, it never goes in the right direction. It's always about control and power. It always leads to war. It always leads to money. And as we're looking at the future, it's always going towards who can have power over humans. And the power over humans comes from perception. And that perception is basically when you cut humans off from consciousness. What the monks do is they try to reconnect to consciousness by meditation. Can this technology be used to reconnect to consciousness? If it can, and you can accelerate somebody's conscious state, then it's going to become very dangerous, because humans will no longer follow the system. So what are you going to do? If you have a system where it wants to have control over people, is it going to allow that type of technology out into people's hands where they become enlightened and then they rally up against the state? Or are you going to create some sort of filter type of algorithm whereby you can give this idea or ideology or training to children, but you always do it so that they're never aligned, so they always go away from consciousness? The other thing is that there are two types of information you could argue, one that comes from consciousness and the other comes from human. If you want to get the information that comes from consciousness, you've got to go towards it. It doesn't come to you. You've got to go towards it. The information man creates, it goes to you. You've got to go to school and you're forced to learn it. And so I think that this information, judging by the way that societies and governments have worked in the past, it's not going to be something that they'd want us to have nor give us. And I think that they would feel very threatened that if suddenly after a couple of minutes we had 100 years of meditation and we suddenly realized what consciousness was and what morality was and what the right thing to do in life was, and then when we wake up, we then rally up against the governments and the powers that be. They wouldn't want that. The government is always going to be corrupt because the government wants to control. And so the government would never let anybody reach those high states. And maybe if this type of technology is coming out that would allow somebody to reach those high states, it would try to disrupt that by training people at a very young age to go in the wrong direction. And that would be done at school, and it would be done through hyper-specialized education. Not only saying that, if you manage to get a chip into a child's head extremely young, even before it came out of the womb, then the child would never have a chance, would it, to be free or to think for itself or to make decisions. And so you could even pre-birth make the child go in a particular direction that you wanted it to go in. Having said that, you could have children perhaps even speaking when they came out of the womb. If you could get a chip into somebody's head or a fetus's head, and while it's growing, you're teaching it things, when it comes out of the womb, it would already be able to talk, speak, think, and do mathematics. You could speed up the process of learning and understanding with technology. And so I don't think that this technology is there in order to give prisoners a prison time in a very short space of time and to save the public purse money. I believe that these are the guinea pigs in order to try to get this technology into humans. And the other worrying thing is that it talks about memories. There's a very good author called Philip K. Dick that used to talk a lot about memories, and a lot of films came out. I believe one of his books is called Sleeping with Electric, Do Electric Sheep Dream? And I think Blade Runner is the film that came from that book. It's a very good book. You should read it. And I think that this idea of having different memories, putting things into people's minds, not knowing if something's true or not. I think one of the things that Dick was talking about was, he said, you never know what yesterday was, because you have sleep, your consciousness is interrupted. And so what happens if today, while you're awake, in this matrix, you've had a load of memories downloaded into your brain to think that you've got a past, which actually doesn't exist. And every night that you go to sleep, that consciousness gets changed, and every day you wake up, some supercomputer changes everybody's memories, and you all act differently every single day. There's some very interesting, there's a film called Total Recall, which played a lot about, played with this type of ideology. But this is where the science fiction is starting to meet consciousness now. So pay attention to the prisons of the future, and pay attention to what they're going to do with this technology.